Welcome to today's episode of Podcast English Learning, where we explore the topic of successful life through stories that inspire and teach valuable lessons. The journey of David. David grew up in a quiet, small town where success seemed like a distant dream, something reserved for people far beyond the reach of his community. Most people in his town led simple lives, working regular jobs, and living with the belief that extraordinary success was for the lucky few. But David had always felt different. Deep inside, he carried a quiet determination, a belief that his life could be more than what he saw around him. As a boy, David spent hours reading about inventors, explorers, and entrepreneurs who changed the world. Their stories fascinated him, especially those of people who, despite countless setbacks, achieved greatness through persistence and hard work. One story in particular stayed with him, the tale of Thomas Edison and his 1,000 failed attempts before inventing the light bulb. "I didn't fail 1,000 times," Edison had said. "The light bulb was an invention with 1,000 steps." That idea, that failure was not the end, but simply a part of the journey, became a guiding principle for David. When he finished high school, David wasn't sure exactly what his future would hold, but he knew one thing. He wanted a life that mattered, a life filled with purpose and success. He enrolled in university to study engineering, a field that fascinated him because it seemed like the perfect combination of creativity and problem-solving. But university life wasn't easy. The workload was overwhelming, and David soon found himself struggling with his classes. He failed several courses in his first year, which shook his confidence to the core. There were moments when giving up felt like the easiest option. He could have dropped out, returned to his hometown, and followed the path everyone expected of him. But every time doubt crept in, David remembered Edison's story. He realized that failure was not a signal to stop. It was a challenge to keep going. He sought help from his professors, spent countless nights studying, and began to understand that mastering something difficult took time. Slowly, his grades improved, and by the end of his final year, David had not only caught up, but had also designed a project that won a regional competition. This achievement felt like the first step toward the life he had always imagined. After graduation, David's optimism was high, but reality soon set in. He applied for jobs at dozens of companies and was met with rejection after rejection. Weeks turned into months, and David found himself questioning his abilities again. It was hard not to feel disheartened when every door seemed to be closed. Friends and family gently encouraged him to consider more practical options. But David wasn't ready to give up on his dream just yet. Instead of feeling defeated, he began to see these rejections as lessons. Each one taught him something about what employers were looking for and how he could improve himself. One day, after yet another rejection, David had a realization. Maybe he was waiting for someone else to give him an opportunity when he could create one for himself. He decided to take the skills he had developed and start his own business, designing custom gadgets for local businesses. First, it was a struggle. There were many months where he barely made enough money to keep the business afloat. He worked long hours, often alone, and the pressure of failure loomed large over him. But with every small victory, every satisfied customer or new order, David's confidence grew. Word began to spread about David's work. He landed a contract with a larger company, which allowed him to hire a small team and expand his operations. As the years passed, David's company became well known not just in his hometown, but in other cities as well. He found himself standing in front of an organization he had built from nothing. A thriving business that provided not only for him, but for the people he employed. Looking back on his journey, David realized that success wasn't about one grand moment of triumph. It wasn't about a lucky break or some secret formula. Instead, it was about the daily grind. Constant process of learning, growing, and pushing forward even when things seemed impossible. Every failure he had faced was a building block, a lesson that had shaped him into someone who could handle the pressures and responsibilities of success. When asked about the secret to his achievements, David always smiled and said, "There's no secret. Success is a process, not a destination. It's about believing in yourself even when things don't go your way. It's about learning from every mistake and finding strength in every failure. The real success isn't just in what you accomplish. and who you become along the way. David's journey is a testament to the idea that success is not reserved for the lucky or the privileged. It's available to anyone who is willing to persist, keep moving forward, even when the road is difficult. His life reminds us that success is not about avoiding failure, but about embracing it as a natural part of growth. With every challenge, David became stronger, and through his perseverance, he turned his dreams into reality. As David's business grew, so did the responsibilities that came with it. Managing a team, overseeing multiple projects, and ensuring customer satisfaction required him to stretch himself in ways he hadn't anticipated. He quickly realized that running a business wasn't just about being good at what you did. It was about leadership, about learning how to inspire and guide others while continuing to push yourself forward. In the early days, he tried to do everything himself. He believed that working harder, doing more, and staying in control would guarantee success. But that approach quickly led to burnout. There was a particular moment, turning point in David's journey, that changed his entire outlook. His company had just landed one of its biggest contracts yet, a project that would require months of work and detailed coordination. David poured himself into the project, working late into the night, often arriving at the office before dawn. His team, though talented, started to feel the pressure of his constant demands for perfection. Deadlines were missed, and tensions in the office rose. David, who had always prided himself on his resilience, felt overwhelmed for the first time. One evening, after a particularly stressful day where everything seemed to be falling apart, David stayed late in the office, alone. As he sat at his desk, exhausted and frustrated, he realized that something needed to change. It wasn't enough to just work hard. He needed to learn how to work smart. He needed to trust his team, delegate responsibilities, and stop trying to carry the entire burden on his own. That night, David made a decision that would shift not only his approach to business, also his understanding of success. He began to focus on building a company culture where collaboration, trust, and growth were at the center. Instead of micromanaging every detail, David started empowering his employees to take ownership of their work. He spent time mentoring his team, sharing with them the lessons he had learned through his own struggle. Slowly, the atmosphere in the company changed. People felt more engaged, more invested in the projects they were working on. With a renewed sense of purpose and a clearer vision for the future, the company began to thrive even more. David also started to understand that success wasn't just about material achievements or reaching certain financial milestones. As his company grew, he found himself reflecting more deeply on what it truly meant to live a successful life. He realized that success, at its core, was about balance. It was about finding harmony between professional achievements and personal fulfillment. For so long, David had focused on building his business, often at the expense of his relationships and his own well-being. But now, he saw that true success included the richness of experiences, the depth of connections, and the joy of living a life aligned with your values. As his business continued to expand, David made it a point to give back to his community. He remembered how, as a young boy, he had looked up to the stories of successful people, and he wanted to be that kind of role model for others. He began mentoring young entrepreneurs, sharing his knowledge and experiences, and offering guidance to those who were just starting their journeys. He created scholarships for students from underprivileged backgrounds, hoping to give them the same opportunities that had been so crucial to his own development. But it wasn't just about business and career success for David. As he grew older, he found deep satisfaction in the simple things that brought meaning to his life. Spending time with his family, exploring his passions outside of work, and continuously learning. He took up painting, something he had always wanted to try, never made time for, and found that it gave him a new perspective on creativity and expression. He traveled to new places, meeting people from different cultures, and each experience broadened his view of the world and what it meant to live fully. David's story is one of perseverance, but it's also a story about growth, personal, professional, and emotional. The initial vision of success that had driven him in his early years had evolved. He no longer saw success as a destination or a final achievement to be reached. Instead, he understood it as a journey, one that was constantly unfolding, shaped by both triumphs and setbacks. His failures had taught him resilience, his successes had taught him humility, and the people he met along the way had taught him the importance of kindness and empathy. In the end, David came to understand that the true measure of success is not in what you accumulate, but in how you live. It's about the impact you have on others, the lessons you learn, and the legacy you leave behind. His life, once marked by the desire to achieve more, had become a reflection of a deeper truth, that success is not about the end result, but about the process of becoming the best version of yourself, through hard work, through failure, through love, and through connection. David's journey serves as a powerful reminder that success in its truest form is multidimensional. It is the result of persistence and purpose, yes, but it is also shaped by the choices we make every day, to live with intention, to build something meaningful, and to find joy in both the challenges and the rewards. As David's business and life evolved, he began to see the profound impact of small, consistent actions over time. Early in his journey, he had been consumed with the idea of making it big, achieving something spectacular that would signal to the world and to himself that he had made it. But as he grew older and wiser, he realized that the most important changes in life often happen slowly, quietly, and sometimes without anyone noticing. It's not the single monumental moments that define us, but the accumulation of everyday efforts, decisions, and interactions. David's reflections brought him back to his early days of struggle, the long nights spent working alone, and the countless failures that had threatened to derail him. But instead of seeing those moments as obstacles, he now saw them as the most critical parts of his story. Those failures had taught him how to persevere, and more importantly, how to adapt. He realized that in order to succeed, it wasn't enough to simply push through difficulty. Real success required flexibility, the ability to pivot, and the courage to change course when things weren't working. There was a particular instance, during the early stages of his company's growth, when David had to make a difficult decision that tested this newfound understanding. His business had grown steadily for several years, but he had taken on a new client, promised to propel his company to the next level. It was a huge contract, one that could double his revenue overnight, and the excitement of landing it felt like the culmination of all his hard work. But as the project progressed, it became clear, clients' demands were unrealistic. The pressure mounted, and the strain on David's team began to show. Deadlines became tighter, stress levels rose, and the quality of work started to suffer. David was faced with a tough decision. He could either continue down this path, holding on to the promise of a massive financial windfall, or he could walk away, prioritizing the well-being of his team and the long-term sustainability of his business. It wasn't an easy choice. The allure of the big contract was strong, but David had learned that success wasn't just about short-term gains. It was about building something lasting, something that reflected his values and integrity. In the end, David made the difficult choice to walk away from the contract. He knew that in doing so, he was protecting the heart of his business, people who had helped him build it. This decision, though hard, reinforced for him the importance of staying true to his principles, even when the potential rewards were tempting. In the years that followed, his business continued to thrive, and the loyalty and respect he earned from his team and clients became one of his company's greatest assets. This experience marked another significant shift in David's understanding of success. It wasn't just about achieving more or growing bigger. Success was about creating a foundation built on trust, respect, and ethical choices. He came to see that a successful life wasn't measured by the size of your bank account or the number of awards on your shelf, but by the quality of the relationships you build and the impact you have on the people around you. David also began to realize the importance of balance in sustaining long-term success. For years, his singular focus had been on building his business. But as he became more established, he understood that true success required more than just professional achievements. It demanded attention to all aspects of life: mental and physical health, personal fulfillment, and meaningful relationships. He began to carve out more time for himself, recognizing that to be a good leader and a happy person, he needed to nourish his own soul. He started a morning routine that grounded him. A few moments of meditation, long walk through the park, or reading something unrelated to work. These small rituals gave him a sense of peace and clarity, helping him approach each day with a renewed sense of purpose. He also reconnected with friends he had lost touch with, realizing that success felt empty without people to share it with. He nurtured his relationships with his family, ensuring that no matter how busy his business became, he was always present for the moments that mattered. Birthdays, family dinners, simple conversations at the end of a long day. Over time, David began to see the ripple effects of these changes. He noticed that when he was more balanced, his business ran more smoothly, his creativity flowed more freely, his decision-making became sharper, and his team responded to his calm, focused leadership. The healthier and more centered he was, the more resilient his company became. And in that resilience, he found a new kind of success, one that wasn't about constant growth or endless striving, but about stability, satisfaction, and a sense of purpose. As the years passed, David's business continued to evolve, but his personal life became just as rich as his professional one. He started mentoring not only young entrepreneurs, but also individuals from various walks of life, helping them navigate their own challenges. He understood that his journey wasn't just about what he had achieved, but about the lessons he could pass on to others. He became known not just for his business acumen, but for his generosity of spirit, his willingness to share his knowledge, and his ability to inspire others to find their own path to success. One day, as David sat on the porch of his home, overlooking the garden he had spent years tending to, he reflected on the fullness of his life. The garden, much like his business, had been built through patience, care, and consistent effort. It hadn't bloomed overnight. It had taken seasons of nurturing, planting and replanting, of tending to the soil and weathering storms. But now it was vibrant, alive with color and life, testament to the slow, steady work that had gone into creating something beautiful. In that moment, David realized that his life too had blossomed in the same way. Through the highs and lows, the successes and failures, the relentless striving and eventual balance, he had created a life that was rich in meaning, purpose, and joy. And in that realization, he found the deepest understanding of what it meant to live a successful life. One that was not defined by any single achievement, by the totality of experiences, the growth along the way, and the love and wisdom gained through it all. David's story at its core is a reflection of the universal truth that success is not about reaching a final destination. It is about the journey, about becoming the person you are meant to be through the process of living fully, embracing challenges, learning from failures, and finding fulfillment in both the work you do and the life you lead. As David continued reflecting on his life and the deeper meanings of success, he became more attuned to the complexities of the human experience. He realized that every person's definition of success is unique, shaped by individual desires, circumstances, and values. The one-size-fits-all idea of success driven by wealth, fame, or external recognition was an illusion, something many people chase only to feel empty once they achieve it. Success, David concluded, was as much an internal journey as an external one. He began thinking about the sacrifices he'd made along the way, some of which were necessary, others he now regretted. For years, his ambition had been all-consuming, leaving little room for personal joys or nurturing relationships. He had missed out on countless moments with friends and family, believing that he would make up for it once he was successful. But as time passed, he learned that the present could never truly be recaptured. The dinner with his parents he'd postponed because of a business trip, the childhood friend he hadn't spoken to in years, the many nights he'd stayed late at the office while his loved ones carried on without him. These were opportunities that had come and gone. It dawned on David that success was not just about striving for more, but about appreciating what you already have in the moment. This understanding hit David deeply when his father fell ill. It happened quickly, and the weight of the situation caught him off guard. As his father's health declined, David was reminded of the fragility of life, How easily we take for granted the people who love us and the time we have with them. He spent every possible moment by his father's side, no longer concerned with meetings or deadlines. As they shared stories, laughed, and sometimes sat in comfortable silence, David realized how much he had missed in his pursuit of success. He had been so focused on building his future that he had forgotten to be fully present for the people who mattered most in his life. During these quiet moments with his father, David's concept of success shifted once again. It became clearer to him that true success was not only about achieving one's professional dreams, but about living a life of connection, compassion, and gratitude. His father's words, though few, carried a profound wisdom. In the end, it's not what you accomplish that defines you. How much love you give and how much love you receive. After his father's passing, David took time to reflect on his legacy. He began thinking more about what kind of impact he wanted to leave behind, not just through his business, but as a person. He asked himself questions he hadn't considered before. Had he made enough space for the people he cared about? Had he contributed to the world in a meaningful way beyond his career? Was he someone others could rely on, not just as a leader, but as a friend, a son, and a mentor? David decided that while he was proud of his professional achievements, there was more to life that he wanted to explore. He restructured his company, delegating more responsibilities to his trusted team, so he could focus on things that mattered most to him personally. He spent more time giving back to his community in deeper, more meaningful ways. He not only offered financial support to causes he believed in, but he also volunteered his time, teaching young people about life, leadership, and the importance of staying true to one's values. In his mentorship roles, David emphasized that while ambition and hard were important, they needed to be balanced with self-awareness and compassion. He would tell aspiring entrepreneurs and students, "Success isn't a ladder you climb until you reach the top. It's a garden you cultivate. You have to tend to all parts of your life, your health, your relationships, your dreams, and your responsibilities. If you focus on just one area, the others wither. Real success comes when all parts of your life thrive together." David also began to focus on personal growth in ways that he had once neglected. He took time to explore interests outside of his career, immersing himself in activities that fed his soul. He took up hiking, which allowed him to reconnect with nature and find peace in the simplicity of the world outside of work. He took cooking classes, discovering joy in creating something with his hands and sharing it with others. He rekindled old friendships and made time for the relationships he had once pushed aside. As David grew older, his wisdom deepened. He saw life not as a race to be won, but as a journey to be cherished. He encouraged others to stop chasing arbitrary milestones and instead to define success in their own terms, based on what truly brought them joy and fulfillment. He knew firsthand how easy it was to fall into the trap of always wanting more, of thinking that happiness lay just beyond the next achievement. But he also knew the emptiness that followed when you reached the top of the mountain, only to realize you had left behind what was most important in the climb. In his later years, David became a sought-after speaker, not because of his business achievements, but because of his perspective on life. People were drawn to his honesty, his humility, and his ability to connect success with deeper, more personal values. His talks weren't about how to get rich or how to grow a business. They were about how to live a meaningful life. He spoke about the importance of failure, not just as a step toward success, but as a way to grow as a person. He talked about the necessity of kindness, integrity, and living with purpose. David's life became a powerful example of what it means to live fully, not just in the professional sphere, but in every aspect of being human. He had once thought that success was a solitary pursuit, but now he understood that it was something shared. It was about the connections you make, the lives you touch, and the legacy of love, wisdom, and kindness you leave behind. As he looked back on his life, David felt a profound sense of peace. He had built something meaningful, but more importantly, he had become someone he was proud of. He had learned to embrace the journey, to find beauty in the struggle, and to understand that the true rewards of life often come not from what you achieve, but from how you live. In the end, David's greatest lesson was this: success is not a goal, but a way of being. It's not about what you do or what you have, but about who you are and how you show up in the world every single day. As David grew older and his life became richer with experiences, he increasingly saw the world through a different lens. He no longer measured his days by his to-do list or his company's bottom line. Instead, he found joy in the smaller moments: the laughter shared with friends, the quiet reflection during a sunrise, or the satisfaction of a well-cooked meal. He learned to savor life's intricacies, to be present in every experience, and to appreciate the journey rather than rushing through it in pursuit of some distant goal. There was a particular memory that stayed with David and encapsulated his new understanding of success. It was a simple day, one without meetings or deadlines. He had taken his niece and nephew on a picnic by a nearby lake. As they sat on a blanket, watching the clouds drift by, the children asked him, "Uncle David, how did you become so successful?" David smiled, recognizing the innocence in their question. When he was their age, success had seemed like something grand and far off, like a treasure to be hunted. Now, with the perspective of a lifetime behind him, he knew better. "How do you think I became successful?" David asked. "Well, you have a big company, and you're really smart," his niece replied. His nephew chimed in, "And you never gave up, right?" David nodded. "Yes, those things helped. But you know, being successful isn't just about building a big company or being smart. It's about something deeper." The children looked up at him with wide eyes, curious to know more. He continued, "I used to think success was about how much money you made or how many people knew your name. But now I've learned that real success is about who you become in the process. It's about being kind, helping others, and living in a way that makes you proud of yourself. Success is when you go to bed at night knowing you've made the world a little better, even in small ways." David's words resonated with his own heart. He had once chased the idea of success relentlessly, believing it lay in accolades, status, and wealth. And while those things had brought him a sense of achievement, they had not filled the deeper longing for meaning and fulfillment. True success, he now understood, was about living with integrity, staying true to your values, and lifting others as you rise. In his later years, David made sure to live by these principles. He became more involved in philanthropy, not just by donating money, but by creating programs that empowered people to succeed in their own ways. He launched community initiatives that provided mentorship for struggling young entrepreneurs and offered scholarships for students who didn't have the means to pursue their dreams. But beyond the professional support, he taught them about life, about resilience, kindness, and the importance of self-worth. He often shared his belief that failure was an essential part of success. He would say, "Don't be afraid to fail. It's through failure that we grow and learn. Every stumble is a step forward. You choose to see it that way." David wanted people to understand that the path to a fulfilling life wasn't smooth or easy, but that the bumps and bruises along the way made the journey worthwhile. Every challenge, every mistake, every unexpected twist had shaped him into the person he had become. In his final years, David focused on his personal life just as much as his professional legacy. He made time for the people he loved, nurturing relationships that had once been neglected, traveled with his family, celebrated milestones, and cherished the quiet moments of everyday life. He no longer felt the need to prove anything to the world. He was content. In the end, David passed away peacefully, surrounded by loved ones. At his memorial service, people from all walks of life gathered to celebrate him, not just for his business success, but for the impact he had on their lives. Former employees, mentees, friends, and family all shared stories about the ways David had touched their hearts and inspired them to live better lives. It was clear that his greatest accomplishment wasn't the company he had built or the wealth he had amassed. It was the love he had given, the wisdom he had shared, and the lives he had transformed. The moral of David's story is this: true success isn't measured by wealth, fame, or accolades, but by the positive impact you have on the world and the person you become along the way. Success is not just about achieving your goals, but about living with integrity, compassion, and purpose. It's about learning from failure, staying true to your values, and helping others rise alongside you. Ultimately, the most successful life is one where you are at peace with who you are, where you've shared love and kindness, and where you leave behind a legacy that inspires others to live meaningful lives. David's journey reminds us all that success is not a destination, but a lifelong pursuit, personal growth, connection, fulfillment. David's story shows us that success is not about avoiding failure, but about embracing it, part of the journey. Success comes to those who are persistent, willing to learn, and determined to create the life they envision. Thank you for joining today's episode of English Learning. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to like, subscribe, and share with your friends. Let's continue learning together. And remember, the path to a successful life starts with a single step.